Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. How are we today?
Hi, Bill. Sometimes I'm not sure if it's the video or if it's you.
Oh, right. I guess for those in our audience that remember, we don't know if it's live or Memorex. I guess was
No, we're live today from Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina, and also from Washington, D.C. But we're actually going to have people joining us from New Delhi very shortly. So we're going to get your connection, the news from Washington, D.C. and New Delhi, India. But the thing is, right now, wait a minute, just a second. I'm reading that a person from New Delhi is going to show up. Are we going to actually have somebody from New Delhi? Maybe not. Okay, so in the meantime, what we'll do is, do we have the Washington report for this morning?
Yes, we have the World Report, Washington
World Report.
It's morphing, Nick. I mean,
it's morphing.
Okay, I think we have. Do we have?
Just a minute. I think we do. Just a minute. We'll have the morning report.
Good morning.
Everybody disappears. Welcome to reality world, people.
Okay. Well, I can. You want me to just start with the report then, and then we'll see.
Oh, I thought the report came with the video. So why don't you start with the report then? Yes.
Okay. All right. From IBMTV International Broadcast Media, this is the World Edition. From Washington, D.C. to New Delhi, India, the oldest democracy to the largest democracy. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Bill Trezevant. To begin with, in India, the national capital recorded its air quality in the, quote, very poor category, even as experts said the situation was, quote, much better compared to 2 days ago. A change in the wind direction was the reason behind the dip in pollution levels. The city recorded an air quality index of 315. The 24-hour average was 344 on Wednesday and 476 on Tuesdays. In world sports, Cristiano Ronaldo scored once in Portugal's 7-zip rout of Andorra in a friendly match on Wednesday, moving a step closer to becoming the all-time top scorer for a national team. Ronaldo reached 102 goals with Portugal to sit 7 shy of the 109 scored by former Iran striker Ali Daei, the only other male soccer player to surpass 100-goal milestone for a national team. Donny van Beek scored the equalizer as the Netherlands came from a goal down to draw a 1-1 tie with Spain in a friendly match. Striker Miche scored twice to help makeshift Belgian side come from behind to beat Switzerland in 2-1 in a friendly game. Vincenzo Griffo scored his first 2 goals for Italy in a 4-zip win over Estonia. And Finland stunned World Cup winner France 2-zip in a friendly goal. Separately, 1 goal was enough for the inexperienced Germany team to beat the Czech Republic. Now, turning our attention to the news of the day. In Hong Kong, the pro-democracy members of parliament resigned en masse to protest the removal of their pro-democracy colleagues. In Mozambique, insurgents loosely aligned with ISIS have beheaded scores of people in a series of attacks that began on October 31st and lasted several days. In recent months, the insurgency has undertaken increasingly sophisticated attacks. The province is home to over $60 billion natural gas developments. In Ethiopia, thousands are fleeing from their country's northern region. The move comes as Ethiopia's government announced that it is at war. The government has stepped up its military offensive. International partners are trying to step up efforts to ease tensions as the conflict threatens to drag Ethiopia into a civil war. World leaders spoke to President-elect Biden about cooperating on the COVID pandemic, climate change, and other issues. In Biden's conversations with key Asian allies, Biden emphasized his intent on easing uncertainties about a less engaged Washington. In Italy, the nation is again facing a systemic crisis as confirmed positive COVID cases pass the symbolic threshold of 1 million. As dire as Italy's ICU situation is once again, it's not critical care that is most worrying doctors during the pandemic's resurgence. Rather, it is the other wards caring for less ill patients who are often younger and sometimes require longer periods of care. The Italian Doctors Federation called this week for a nationwide lockdown to forestall a collapse of the medical system. Australia announced a new investigative agency to build criminal cases against Australian special forces suspected of committing war crimes in Afghanistan. The Office of the Special Investigator is to be formed after a 4-year investigation into allegations and rumors surrounding behavior of some soldiers in Special Air Service and commando regiments in Afghanistan from 2005 to 2016. Separately, Iran continues to increase its stockpile of uranium far beyond the limits set in the nuclear deal. The International Atomic Energy Agency reported in a confidential document distributed to member countries that Iran, as of November 2nd, had a stockpile of 5,385.7 pounds of uranium. The nuclear deal signed in 2015 and abandoned by Trump allows Iran only to keep a stockpile at 447 pounds. The United Kingdom on Wednesday became the 5th country in the world to record more than 50,000 COVID-related deaths. The UK, which has the highest virus-related death toll in Europe, joins the United States, Brazil, India, and Mexico in reporting more than 50,000 deaths. Meanwhile, in Russia, the number of cases are rising. Particularly hard hit are the rural areas of Russia that do not have the same type, quality, and prevalence of hospital facilities located in the cities. In the United States, the Trump administration is still refusing to begin the formal transition process and cooperate with Joe Biden's incoming team. There is now a stack of messages from foreign leaders sitting at the State Department that the president-elect cannot access. Separately, a Biden official emailed Democratic chiefs of staff this week to say that Biden, quote, knows that together we have critical work ahead of us to rebuild, and he is eager to seize this transition period to get started, end quote. Biden's newly created COVID task force is already reaching out to Democrats on Capitol Hill to strategize how to tackle the problem when the new administration takes control. And now the COVID report. The U.S. keeps breaking records. The nation reported more than 144,000 new daily COVID cases. The country also saw its highest daily death toll since early May. More people are hospitalized with COVID-19 this week than at any point in the pandemic, and hospitals are running out of healthcare workers, which could cause some major problems. The situation is particularly bad in the Midwest and the Sun Belt. The Navajo Nation and El Paso, Texas, are also being hit hard. Finally, the COVID death toll from Johns Hopkins is over 241,808 American souls lost and 1,285,709 global souls lost. That is your World Edition for November 12, 2020 from IBMTV International Broadcast Media. Smart television for a smarter global community, from dictatorships to democracies around the world. Thank you. Okay.
Whatever happened to good morning, good afternoon, good night?
I did that at the beginning, and you know, it's really awkward to try to figure out where to put that because I don't want to say a good night like in the middle of the show, Nick. Because
right,
starting the show now.
Well, that's right, because otherwise everybody's going to leave you, right?
Yeah, I mean, all your fans will leave, Nick. I mean,
we're out here.
Okay, I mean that
it would be my version of viewer suppression coming off the election. I mean, I'd be suppressing all of your viewers. I can't do that. Yeah.
Oh, no, we don't want to do that. So
I think one of the most important topics that exist right now is the COVID-19 death rate in the United States. It's close to 2,000 a day. Now, if we start hitting those metrics, which we predicted at IBM-TV, and I know we're doing the world news. We should do the world news tomorrow, today, because some of this stuff is so easy to predict, Bill. And something that we did predict, the death rate would skyrocket in the fourth quarter. Yeah. Not a hard thing. If we did world news tomorrow, today, then what we could do, we'll say, this is your news for December 14th. Donald Trump has conceded the election, and the thing is, the transition team is starting. He decided after all the states came in certified news to do the news on December 14th, even though it's not here. Right. Okay, that's a possibility. Right. All right, so the thing is, so the death rate has increased. What got me in your report is Russia is reporting some huge death rates. So, you know, what we do need to do, because we do need to go around the world and see if we can find somebody who's an expert in the Russian area to bring him on. And let's see if we can bring in a Russian expert like Sasha Starr. There we go. Person who used to live in Russia. And maybe he can set some insights on that.
I'm actually very surprised that Russia reported such huge numbers, because they have a vaccine available now for quite a long time. And I heard the name is Novichok 2 or 2. I don't know, maybe there's not enough supply, and maybe so not everyone is taking it, or maybe there's enough supply and everybody's taking it, but it's not 90% accurate, maybe less
No,
than that.
it's 90. I think 91% or 92%. It was just so odd. Pfizer said theirs was 90, and then Russia immediately declared that theirs was 92. Like, oh well, like the 2 points.
I think ours is 93.
Okay, well,
Yeah, the bets are going higher and higher, right?
right. So it is unusual. Yeah, they don't know, and actually, there's a great deal of concern because they believe that because of the lack of health care in rural Russia, that they believe those numbers are actually undercounted in rural Russia, which would make sense. It's the same pattern that we've seen in India, where in the cities the rates are the people are dealt with, but in the rural areas it is more suspect. And speaking of India, I think we have someone from India because we are from Washington, D.C. to New Delhi. And from New Delhi, we have, young man, we have Ankit. Look at you, young man.
Hello.
How are you doing? Good morning to everyone.
Good. How are you?
All good, all well. Struggling with the COVID
While we were kind of updating, there's clearly a spike in Italy. Italy is returning to its spring type numbers, which is really, really concerning. Only because those were the pictures that shocked the world as the pandemic, and it shuttered their medical system as well as the country. And those were the images of the dire warnings that the rest of the world was looking at. It appears now that Italy, thereafter, was the model of what they did in terms of shutting down the economy and getting control of the COVID pandemic. However, the resurgence is coming back with a vengeance in Italy, and they're once again concerned. However, and then we've seen the other things, as mentioned by Sasha, and now as well as you, Ankit. It's the differential in treatment between those that are in urban areas that have access to modern medical facilities and those in the rural areas where the cases are also increasing but going unreported, as well as the possible death tolls. What are your thoughts on that, Ankit?
So the cases are growing, tremendously in India, but it's more towards the urban places. And if you talk about the capital, New Delhi, we have around 8,500 plus cases reported every day, which is a lot for a small city like Delhi, because India is a bigger country with 1.3 billion population. And if you talk about the India level stats, we have around close to 50,000 new cases every day reported, and around close to 700 plus deaths. That's been recorded every day. But apart from COVID, we are struggling with the heaviest pollution recorded in India, especially in the North India, and that is also killing a lot of people. And now experts are saying that the spike is happening because of the pollution level. And pollution level is so excess that if you check your level, it should be around 25. R is around 500. And in some places, it's more than 600 and 650 and 700 as well. It's like a gas chamber situation. And then we have COVID. And then on top of that, it's a festive season, the Diwali, which is the biggest festival in India. And everyone is on the road doing a lot of shopping and stuff like that, because everyone was in the lockdown from past 8 months. And then we have a winter season. So there are multiple things going around, and people are out because of some reasons or the other. And everyone is struggling. And most of them wearing masks, but a lot of them are not wearing masks as well. And people who have COVID or they had COVID, they think they're immune. So that is also a cause of concern that, they are not, they think that they have a superpower, or they won't be able to be a carrier for anyone like that. So it's a difficult situation. But on the other hand, we had a cricket tournament, which is one of the popular cricket tournaments in the world, close to the World Cup. And that we have successfully done in Dubai. And after 60 matches, or almost like 60 days of marathon fight between 8 teams, we have recorded our one of the teams from Mumbai Indians. They have been champions, and it's a $1 billion tournament. If you talk about NBA, it's not less than an NBA. It's called IPL, Indian Premier League. And what happened is that apart from the Indian players, there are a lot of foreign players also playing in the tournament. So it's like a global tournament for the world, and it happened successfully.
I guess the question is because we've been reporting on the air quality in India for the past 3 or 4 days. What's the cause of the sudden increase in pollution?
Yeah. So the cause is basically what happened is that the farmers, they burn their rice farm, the rice field during this time, and we don't have a solution to, that we can utilize that particular waste after we produce the rice from that, and they just burn the farm, and then it's pollution around North India, and that happens for almost like 2 months, and we don't have a solution for it. Before that, when I was reading about the issue, we have changed the rice cycle. Before it was in April, and after April we have monsoon. So whenever people burning the rice field, because of monsoon, the pollution level is down. But during this time we don't have any rain. That's why everyone is struggling, and there is no solution as of now. And government is trying to do a lot of rebates and taking care of that waste field, which is not. Which can be recycled or reused in any other products. So the idea is to make sure that how we can utilize it and take it forward. But as of now we are struggling. And if you talk about the number of people struggling around that pollution level in North India, it's little less than 80% of the US population, because a lot of the major areas in India are struggling with the pollution, and that is a big cause of concern apart from COVID.
Okay. Let me ask you this, because I'm curious about this as well. Now that we have you, I really just want to pick your brain. What is India thinking about its future hopes or relationships with the United States, given the change in the American administration incoming? What can you tell us about that, Hank?
So people are very excited, and we are happy. Not with Biden. Everyone, accepting Biden apart from the Republicans. But on the other hand, we are happy because of Kamala Harris, and it's an Indian descent. Somewhere we have an Indian connection, and people who are positive, and they think that it would bring a lot of good fortunes and a lot of good, bonding between India and US. Although we had a good relationship from past like 7, 8, 10 years, 20 years, but that relation will become more stronger because Kamala understands the Indian subcontinent as well, and she understands the US politics. So we all are hopeful, and people are celebrating here in India with our new vice president. And Biden is also, claiming that Biden is having like 5 or 7 relatives somewhere in Mumbai, because their great ancestors were part of East India Company, and some of their relatives are living in Mumbai. So it's good for all of us, and we all are happy and excited about the new relationship.
Okay, I had one more question, and then I will turn it. We'll pivot.
Yeah.
And that's this. But I also read that India is implementing another round of stimulus to get because you guys are the 5th largest economy on the planet, and your government is engaging in quite an extensive fiscal stimulus program. What can you tell us about that, Ankit?
So we had a stimulus. I think like 3-4 hours before Finance Minister, did a press conference and read out the plan for the next stimulus. But here, stimulus is not like that we'll get money on our bank account. It's more about they will put money for some policies and create a lot of jobs and create a lot of business promises, or help you out to gain more businesses, or maybe giving you more opportunities in terms of different work. So stimulus here is not about that everyone will get $1,000 in their account and that's about it. So I need to still go through the stimulus. There are a lot of analysis going around the stimulus. So once I have all the details, I will get back to you. But the important point is that within the stimulus, we had one more important announcement that the Information Broadcasting Ministry in India, they are taking over the digital content in India. So whoever wants to be a digital player in India, they have to be a part of the IP ministry and take a lot of licenses or stuff like that, because they wanted to control that platform, because as of now everyone can just go on YouTube and start playing a lot of stuff. So they wanted to monetize it and plan it in a proper way. So that is good for IBMTV. We can officially apply for licensing and be a player as a digital player in India. But that policy is still under control because they have different parameters and stuff like that. So we'll apply based on what we have to do for IBMTV. So that's for the news from India. But I wanted to add one more interesting point, Bill.
Yeah.
We also had an election where more than 100 million people live in a state called Bihar, and the election was very close. And finally, the ruling party they got elected again with just addition of 3 votes. So the closing was 122, and they got 125 votes. And the other party, as you know, they are not accepting the defeat, and that's about.
Oh,
So
so,
it's like yeah.
so you're in the same boat as us.
Yeah, but here what happened is that the ruling party won. In your case, the opposition won. So when the ruling party won, he is the CM, so he can definitely take control. There is no transition required. But in your case, you need to do a lot of transition. So that's the cause of concern. But the interesting point is that on one hand, the ruling minister CM, he's around 70 years of age, and the other side of the opposition leader who wants to be a CM, he is 31-year-old guy, and everyone is supporting him to be a CM. And then the younger guy lost the election, and the ruling CM won the election. And he's from the same alliance where Narendra Modi is. So I mean, that was a big thank you speech happened yesterday with Narendra Modi and team, and they celebrated it like that. But rest, I mean, still a tussle going on.
Okay, Nick, what do you make of that? I mean, the world's largest democracy has voting problems.
Well, the thing is, it's not unusual, but we look at the economic problems that exist in India and where India is going. There's some good news and some bad news. Okay, like any economy. India, China close to pullback plan for Pangolin. Okay, so they're in some skirmish up there. We got to go over the skirmishes. We're this Monday on Economics Monday. We're going to go over the Armenian-Azerbaijan conflict. We have a subject matter expert in that area to discuss that. We haven't gone over the Indo-China conflict. And you know what they do, Bill? They always fight over these territories that there's nothing there. It's like mountains, it's desert. I mean, they fight over these worthless territories. There's no good beachfront property. I'm sorry, no good great golf courses, and no ski resorts. Now that's worth fighting over. Worthless territories they continue to fight over. But that being aside, the Indian economy is actually not in bad shape. COVID has hurt them, but the projections were the GDP was going to rise 8% this year, and it'll probably reinvigorate in 2021 when COVID's under control. It'll rise at a rate of 8%. This is what our projections are at the IBMTV network. Now you look at the debt ratio, a very important part, because the United States just went over 100% of debt to GDP.
Yeah.
India sits at around 80%. So the thing is, they are not even close to 100% GDP. And now they're pretty smart. They did something they call external debt versus internal debt. Their total debt is 1.8 trillion, but their external debt is around 500 million. Now, what I mean about external and internal, external is what you owe to other countries. Internal is what you owe to yourself. If you look at the United States and you look at and no one ever does that metric. If you looked at our internal debt, it's huge. It's 23 trillion. If you look at our external debt, it's not that huge. It's around 6 trillion. It's pretty small. Now, I noticed on the internet that finally India, because these guys are a little bit more ahead of the game than they are at the United States, actually show external debt, which is only 500 million out of the 1.8 trillion. But the internal debt is 1.8. That's money you owe to yourself. Now, it's kind of stupid, but let's give you an example. Social Security in the United States. The Social Security Trust Fund is funded by basically the U.S. borrowing money and sending it over there. So you're basically borrowing money from yourself. And that's what's going on across the world. And I think because of the debt problem, you're going to see more people breaking down those metrics. Because when people in the United States go, oh, our debt's so high, who do we all owe this money to? China, India, UK? No, we don't. We owe it to ourselves. We actually borrowed it from ourselves. It's kind of stupid, but that's what we did. Well, what do we owe China? Maybe $1 trillion out of the 23 trillion. What about everybody else? I ran the numbers at one time. It was around maybe 5 or 6 trillion. That is our true national debt. The rest of it is just money we owe ourselves. If we canceled it, no big deal. And I think you're going to see that on a going forward basis. It's just a weird accounting maneuver. Now, with that, okay, in mind, because their debt to GDP ratio is low, they're actually positioned to grow, and they could actually do a stimulus program, increase their debt, and have very little effect. The group that went out of control is Japan. Japan's debt to GDP skyrocketed into 150%, 200%, and they ended up with a lot of trouble financially. And so what happens, Japan's economy started shrinking or not growing as fast due to an extremely high GDP, debt to GDP. So did Italy, and so did Greece, okay, where their debt to GDP ratio is extremely high. Now, something the U.S. does have to be concerned about on a going forward basis. And this is one reason it'll be very interesting to see how Biden's going to deal with this issue. Are we going to have a stimulus package in the United States or not? If we do, we're going to grow our debt to GDP ratio. If we don't, and there's going to be arguments going both ways. Why should we bother when we have a vaccine on the way? You see what I mean? Yeah. And we may not have another stimulus program. So it's going to be very interesting to watch the United States, how are they going to reply to that. It's also interesting to see that in India, they don't do direct payments, which I think is the best program. Direct payments to the individuals.
Right. And stimulates demand, which is everything that David K. Johnson.
Well, I'll give you an idea. I'll give you an idea what happened in my company. The direct payments to individuals are like $1,200, but my company received $200,000, and it sits in a bank account. Okay. Now, what helped stimulate the economy? Well, the $1,200, which was sent to everybody. Everybody spent it. When I talked to all my employees, they all spent it. It's all gone. It's all circulated. What about the $200,000? It's still sitting in my bank account. You know, it's like in our corporate bank account.
There were art institutes, which artists should be getting the money, but there were museums and huge art institutes that received, $54 million. Okay, $54 million that went to big organizations. Again, like you said, where the money sat, the money was supposed to have been issued as paychecks to the people that they normally pay. So the idea was to keep those industries going by giving them money to pay the people they normally pay, but that didn't happen. So because people weren't going to museums, so the museums who got the money probably sat on it. That's why I kept asking many months ago. Remember where I kept asking? So we issued $2 trillion. Where'd all the money go?
It went.
Where is it? It should be.
It wasn't just us. We have about 300 corporate clients, and they all of them. They not all of them actually, I think, qualified. All of them took the PPP money. All of them, it sits in the bank accounts, and that's it. In other words, it doesn't circulate, Bill. So the real problem, the people in Washington, D.C., where you live, the mud hole people, they don't get that if they do direct payments, it's a bottom-up philosophy. The money circulates. The top-down philosophy means just, well, the 1% are still in control.
Like David K. Johnson said, it was a welfare package for the wealthy. So David said that. He said it over and over again. I kept saying the same thing after I read the policy that was being written. Yeah. That this is, everybody kept saying, oh, it's bottom up. I go, no, it's not. Read it.
Well, the thing is, it does have restrictions on it. In other words, as an owner-employer, I can't actually use the money for myself. I have to use it for other things. In other words, I have to use it for corporate expenditures or paying employees and things of that nature. But since we don't have those, what does it do? It just sits in our bank account, Bill.
Well, not quite, Nick. I mean, I understand, and just we always fall into this trap. You're looking at it from the 1% point of view, and I certainly understand that. But
the 1% affects the 99%.
Well, hang on, but listen, the engine that drives the American economy is small business. And those businesses
these are small businesses.
No, hang on. They're not the size and scope, and so a lot of them are just independent, single owner businesses, and they actually qualify for the PPE program. And
right.
Yeah, right. And so what they can do is essentially, if they've got they can make an application for it. They can pay themselves and declare themselves as the one employee of their company. And then they can use it to cover their cost and everything else.
I couldn't pay myself with it. I had to pay my employees, and we used there was 24,000 went to pay employees. But see, when that happens, here's what happens.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't use it to pay myself. I can use it to pay employees. So we use it to pay employees. Okay, but if PPP is taking care of the employees, that's cash not going to the employees. So when cash comes in, where does the cash go?
Well, I mean, it depends.
It goes back to me. In other words, if somebody covers all my employees' costs, then what happens is I get more cash for me. So what happens is,
comes in for him.
see what happens. So the thing is, the
Government
PPP,
paid his employees for his business.
exactly. So I'm going, oh, this is pretty good.
We're stupid people in America because we allowed it. This was the senators. This was your senators who did all of this, and this is why many of us down here in the middle section, because we're stretched so thin. Not a lot of us did not get the PPP. A lot of us didn't get the relief we needed. A lot of us didn't even get the $1,200 check. But we keep saying, you got to stop doing that. I mean, my first thought was, why are you giving the big companies money and then turning around and writing a $1,200 check to everybody? It is just, and then expecting the company to pay the people. A lot of the companies didn't pay the people. Only one company, Ruth Chris, that we're very familiar with, returned their money. They just said, we're not going to take it. Yeah. But that money came with rules. Okay, you had to pay your employees. If you used it for any of your expenditures, then you had to report 75% and pay back the rest.
Right.
So you had to pay back 25%. Now I've been reading where the government has been writing forgiveness to a lot of people, whether it's to the middle classers that did manage to get it, or the top 1% are getting forgiveness letters, but they're writing forgiveness letters now. So, can you imagine the mess that would be to have to audit that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it does create audit mess and accounting nightmares. But I'm just saying, from a pure economic stimulus package standpoint, if they send everybody $1,200, all right, that will stimulate the economy. Direct payments to individuals. This give the corporations a bailout. It doesn't really do that. And a big chunk of those funds are used to do that. However, the senators in your mud pool that are on some of my former PAC's payroll, because I used to do that when I spent my time in the U.S. Senate. I spent my time just writing checks to your senators. Okay, then they would listen to our corporate message, which is send the money to our corporations and don't send it to the individuals. And guess what they would do? Because we were the ones who were writing the check. Guess what they do, Bill? They would do what we tell them to do. And that's called democracy in America. And that's one reason we get into later why dictatorships may be more efficient than democracies. But we'll get into that later on.
There's some other things that they could be doing, like sending out test kits to the people, and this could be worldwide, where you can do at-home testing to make sure that stay ahead of the game. Early detection, right? Early detection is very important. And I was reading some articles by some scientists, one who is a historical medical doctor, so he reads the history of from medical history of what's happened in the past pandemics, and everything that we're experiencing isn't nothing new. And one of them had predicted this. He predicted that this was going to happen to us. So we need to be listening to them. And a lot of this, one of them stated, we're rushing a vaccine that nowhere in history have we ever done a vaccine in less than 3 years. And there are so many complications that come with vaccines. Who's to truly benefit? This was one of the medical experts. Who was in the magazine, who is to benefit from this? Who is to really benefit from this? And the one thing that we truly learn in situations like this, especially when we start knee-jerking, is the mistakes we made. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest thing, and that's what he says. We will learn more from this about all the mistakes we made. Yeah, but there's no reason to make a lot of these mistakes, because they have in history what works, what doesn't. We have a global community. In England, they're providing food vouchers to go to restaurants to keep the restaurants alive. If you keep the restaurants alive, you keep the food industry alive. You get your, other countries, they never had to shut down. Schools never shut down. So why are we not looking at those footprints? Because majority of them had pandemic policies and pandemic teams. But I don't think a vaccine's an answer, just like we never found a cure for HIV. And that's one of the things that they talked about. And in any pandemic, of course, as you move on, you're going to find new symptoms. They even reported this when we talked about this months ago. You're going to find new symptoms because guess what? More and more people are getting sick. But at the rate that we're getting sick, the hospitals are not going to be able to manage it. And they predicted this was going to happen this winter, right, Nick? And,
This was we easily predicted all this stuff on IBMTV network. And the sad part, there are solutions to it. One is wear masks, social distance, become a hermit, basically, which is what you're going to have to do if you want to not catch this COVID-19, because the infection rate right now is about 3% of our population and growing, Bill, as you know. So the thing is, the minute those percentages keep increasing, the odds of you running into somebody who is infected also increases. Now, the real problem when it comes to data, they show data that is historic. In other words, 10 million people have been infected. Some of them may not have symptoms anymore, and they never give us that data. So of the 10 million, maybe only 3 million actually are symptomatic that you could catch it from. We don't get that data, unfortunately, but we do know that the death toll is rising. It's close to 2,000 a day. Now, if it keeps that up, Bill, just do the math. We're going to have 600,000 people die of this by the next year. That's the reason, unfortunately, the vaccine is necessary, and they're expediting it, even though there's no way you can test the long-term effects on a vaccine that hasn't been around for a long time.
And also, early detection is very important, as we all are so very aware for over a year now. It's 2 weeks before you get a symptom. So majority of the people are not even going to go see a doctor. Majority of the people don't even have insurance anymore. But the majority of the people are not going to go see a doctor until they have a symptom. And by then you have been symptomatic and contagious for 2 weeks. By the time you get a symptom, we already know this. So how many people did you infect when you didn't know? So to me, again, it is more cost effective to send those early detection kits to every household. You can get a 30-day kit. Send it to the household. Let everybody start like you do diabetes. It's that simple. If you discover you might have it, again, it's only 80% accurate. If you might have it, you do the next stage testing. But early detection to me is the only way we're going to corral. And I've preached this since day one. Those kits exist, but for some reason they don't want to issue them. But it's cheaper to send out that kit than it is $1,200 check every 6 months. So. And you can keep people employed.
You're
corral the fire. You can corral the situation.
But see, here's the problem. Here's what's going to happen. Thanksgiving is coming up in the United States. It's a big holiday where all the families get together. We even seen right after the election, you would think that Democrats would have more sense than to come out and all party and hug and wonderful each other when they shouldn't have done it. Okay. And this goes back to the people in the United States just don't take this seriously. The basketball season, and I love basketball, I love football. The basketball season is starting. There's no way you're going to be able to do social distancing playing basketball. But this goes back to our policy in the United States that we prefer fun over death. In other words, we'd rather kill ourselves than miss a form of entertainment whatsoever. And it's the lack of seriousness that this country has when it comes to this virus. And so we're getting all the deaths that we deserve, which right now is in the 200,000. The media has not done a good job. They're just starting to, but they need to do more of it by reporting the people that are dying. They showed one lady who was 37. Finally, they did that died of coronavirus. Remember, they have plenty of material to show, Bill. We have 250,000 people we could get on TV showing them dying. But here's also what's happening. They're keeping people away from the people that have coronavirus and died of coronavirus because they could catch coronavirus. So we don't see the morgues. We don't see the funerals. We don't see the people that are dying. We're basically shielded from that. Now, if somebody says, hey, a lot of people are dying, but we're not going to show you them that die, then in your brain, you go, well, I guess a lot of people aren't really dying and there's nothing to be afraid of.
For them, it's just a number, Nick. It's just
a number. In New York, they were just stacking bodies. They had no room for the morgue, and they were just stacking bodies in the beginning, and nobody cared because they didn't really show it. Nobody wanted to give that visual. They were in the back of cooler trucks until they could find a place for them. And they did this in other countries. National Geographic did a beautiful, they did a magazine this month on COVID. They always do a beautiful coverage throughout this whole thing. They've been showing, they showed in other countries where the culture is to do different things with the bodies than what we do. When they die, they were wrapping them in cellophane. And then containing them, because they don't know how the disease spreads, right? Because we've seen Ebola where it leaked out of the bodies in the shallow graves many years ago. So there's just so much unknown that we just need to be careful. We just, and again, like you said, Nick, people don't realize it until they see it. You don't know what it looks like. Exactly. And, you know, Dr. Tula has said this time again that, you know, the mask work, the washing of the hands works, the distancing ourselves. And I watched a video somebody prepared, and in one of the statements made, today, the way we say I love you is I can't see you. So we unfortunately have had to change our methods. But I think if we get it under control, take a look at what the other countries did that are surviving it. I think that we can get it under control too. There's no reason why we can't. It's just, you know, pandemics have plagued us for years, and we're not learning anything from them. We haven't learned anything. It's supposed to be an intelligent species. So, you know, I received a comment about the testing. You know, yeah, a lot of people, they probably said that they tested positive and that's how they died, because they tested positive. Well, COVID could have pushed them beyond the brink to die. So yes, I believe that should be on the death certificate, even if they had heart disease. But there were thousands and tens of thousands of people who died in the street that never got tested. And if they weren't tested and didn't test positive for COVID, then that didn't get put on their death certificate. They were just found dead. So, you know, so there's a half and half there. This is what I tell people: those numbers are a threshold, and we should use them as a place marker of where we begin. But not everything's 100%. You know, the world was flat for how many years? So, you know, it's one of those things but I've learned a lot through the National Geographic's edition of all of this. Actually, if you go back to January, they did an article of what it did to the human body. There was an article written of what it will do to the human body, right down to destroy the liver, the lungs. So it's not like this information hasn't existed. We just act like it's new. So yeah, there you go.
Okay. And this should be on the media every day. In other words, the thing is, because this is what's going on every day. Unfortunately, this doesn't give the whole history of the graphics. Remember, I'm just showing a little bit in one particular morgue. There's 250,000 of these almost, Bill. Right. 230,000 plus. Okay. And what do we have here? Maybe 40 or 50 of them, maybe 100 of them. You know, I still have 249,000 more. And this goes back to the problem that we have in this country, and that's the reason we are the leaders. We have several problems. No, poor leadership. Well, that's going to change, hopefully. Poor media. I mean, the thing is, they don't really show the graphic nature of just people dying of this, and lack of personal responsibility because of the two. They go, well, if my leaders don't take it serious and the media doesn't seem to care that much, then I guess it really doesn't exist, even though this is what's going on behind the scenes, as what I'm showing right now. And this isn't even close to the graphics that you would see when it comes to COVID-19. So they're downplaying it. And some people believe, oh, it's just another flu. It's a flu that, you know, old people die of. I mean, right. they create their own delusions about it until they're infected and they go, maybe I should have listened. But by that time they're here, they're dead. And so dead people can't go back and say, I made a mistake. You know, so these people's voices are all silenced in a coffin. And remember, they're sequestered the minute they get it really bad, they go to a hospital. They're sequestered. They're put on ventilators that don't work. All right. It's like a Hail Mary, you know. Well, last thing we'll do, we'll put them on a ventilator. At least they'll breathe until they die. And then they die. Then there's the funeral. Nobody reports. It's just another funeral. And then we have 230,000 people die. Then you have the deniers. Well, they died really because they're morbidly obese. They died really because of a heart condition. That was, but they don't get the connection. They're trying to deny that it was actually COVID-19 that exacerbated their heart condition.
Right.
So the thing is, unfortunately, you know, the people, you know, they just need to take this seriously. I believe here's what's going to happen. People will not take it seriously. Okay. People will travel. They're already showing reports. Travel will be way up on Thanksgiving. COVID-19 will explode right after this as we hit toward December. Okay. That's what's going to happen, because the message from Washington and the message from the media is not serious. Seriously.
Well, that's because the message from Washington is all wrapped up with the president that won't cooperate with an incoming president, and rather just kind of occupying the airwaves with, you know, the notions that somehow there should be some redress for him for having lost a national election. But you're right on all the other points.
But see, it's a waste of time. I mean, the thing is, but it's so more exciting to talk about election fraud than talk about people dropping dead in the streets. Now, Joe Biden did the right thing, though. One thing he does, he's appointing a task force and hopefully a group of doctors to head up the task force that have backgrounds in virology and pathology, as opposed to Mike Pence, who doesn't know a COVID from, you know, a bookstore that he went to yesterday. I mean, the guy doesn't know anything. That's the honest truth. Not because I don't like him. I don't even know the guy. But the thing is, he has no background whatsoever in it whatsoever. You know, so he did the right thing on that. So I believe that he will be a better leader in charge to take this seriously. But right now, this is what we're seeing in the United States. So my prediction is we're going to hit that magic number of around 400,000 in January in deaths. That the death rates are going to increase at an increasing rate. They're getting close to 2,000. I think it was like 1,800. But you're going to start seeing people drop dead at a rate of 2,000 people per day. And nothing's going to happen. People are still going to go out and party like it was 1918 and 2020 on their Thanksgiving Day. Nothing's going to stop the turkey, the family getting together, the people going on airplanes. It's all bad. The basketball season will start. The NCAA said, hey, we're going to do it, and it will crash. And it will crash hard because all the kids are going to be infected. Right. You know, there's no way they can stop it.
Because basketball, even though football is a contact sport, those guys are covered from head to toe. They could a lot of them actually wear shields in their helmets.
They're shields. You're right. They actually have masks in their helmets.
Yeah, they wear, actually, interestingly enough, which I think will eventually become something we have to adapt to, is they wear mouthpieces, right? And those mouthpieces, if you put probably something in there like Listerine or something like that, it would probably help break down any virus trying to break in. But I foresee something to that effect. You know, I've been preaching that science fiction wrote our clothing for us, and Darth Vader suits are to come if we're going to engage in society. But you can't play basketball and not sweat all over each other, not spit all over each other. So, I mean, it's just, it is one of those sports that I don't think needs to be available right now until we have a control over it. We saw, even with football, a lot of players came down with COVID, which is just, it's inevitable. How many people in the stadiums? Nobody comes back with the stats of, because I don't think anybody does proper tracking. Other countries do, but in our country, it's against people's privacy to track back, you know, who could you have contacted with and
contact tracing. Yeah, we don't even think about it.
No, we don't do that. We expect everything to work on the honor system, like Dr. Arthur had told the person, you just tested positive for COVID, go home, stay home, don't get around anyone, wear a mask if you are, you know. And that night he goes to the grocery store. Dr. Arthur's wearing a mask. The guy's walking around, no mask, spreading the disease around to everybody. Now, as a doctor, a frontline doctor, how would you feel, right? And that's what I ask people who are so negative about all this. don't. This one person, kept saying rude things about the frontline doctors who were going, thank God we got a president who's going to respect us. And he kept calling him a liar. And I go, who are you to talk from the sideliner? You're just a sideliner. They're frontliner workers who've worked day and night to try to help us. And you're calling them a liar? They have a right to feel the way they want to. So we got to pull together and unite together. We haven't had that. Maybe our new election choice and president will be a uniter. There's going to be oppositions, but who knows? But what are you looking at, Nick?
This is the COVID-19 chart. Notice it's going up like a rocket.
Yeah.
And there's just no end sight. And so this is the reality of the situation. And it had a little bump downwards as we decided to instigate some forms of protection, but it was just a slight down rate. Then everybody goes, well, I guess everything's okay again. Now it's back on the track upwards because everything is not okay again. And frankly, people just need to sequester for maybe, until early 2021. And then come back up. Pardon?
Is that deaths or just infected?
Those are just infected people.
Do you have the death chart? I've got the death chart.
You got the death chart? I'm going to stop sharing the screen and see if you can share the death chart, because the death chart in the United States is important, obviously, because people go, well, I got sick, I don't care. But what happens if I die?
Daily deaths right here.
Yep. No,
see that spike? It's gone up above any of it.
But the daily death rates exceeds now our top daily death rates ever. And with, as you would say, Bill, with no end in sight.
Right.
So here we're sitting at the United States. We're leading the world. Total deaths 247,000 already. I mean, I always thought it was 230. I thought it was 230, but if I miss a day or two, it's now 240.
It went up by 2,000 last night.
But here's what's going to happen. It's going to continue to increase, and that's going to spike even further. Because the thing is, we need to cancel Thanksgiving, and no one wants to do it.
And unfortunately, India took a high spike. But here's what's still interesting to me. We can combine several countries total, and we still exceed their death rate. We still exceed their infectious rate. And it's pure ignorance. It's all of this is based on pure ignorance of our society and refusal to work together. And I don't know what else to like Nick said, if you have to be a hermit, be a hermit. It's like we're planning on visiting someone that I dearly love and haven't seen in a while, but she's 81 years old. And but we're going to do it very protective. If we have to put up a piece of plastic and put her in a bubble, we're going to do that. But we're going to be very, very careful in our, making sure that we clean ourselves really well. Make sure, that we're not infected, but we're going to do things and do it properly. We're not saying you can't go visit people. Mm-hmm. Just be, like Nick said, be careful. Bill says,
because your odds,
be careful.
You see, the real problem is your odds keep increasing as the infection rate keeps increasing, that you will get infected. Right now it's sitting at 3%. Well, now the thing is, let's say in the next couple of months it'll be 6% or 10%, which means 1 out of every 10 people that you run into will be symptomatic. Okay, that increases your odds to get the infection. You see the problem? So what happens is that it increases they call it increasing at an increasing rate as opposed to a decreasing rate. And the only solution is this crazy vaccine, which is not being distributed and probably won't till the end of this quarter and early next quarter. And then once it's distributed, especially to the more vulnerable people, you do end up with this weirdo decrease due to potential herd immunity. You have a certain amount of people that have been infected, a certain amount of people that actually, and they survived, and you have a certain amount of people that have the vaccine and cannot get infected, and so that rate starts actually going back down. But that's going to be a while. I mean, it may not be till in total safety may not be till the end of next year. But all the data I get, because I was planning to go to Hungary this year, I'm sitting there going, and I was going to go to Moscow. I added that to the list, Sasha. And I'm going like, I can't go to Moscow. I might not be able to go to Hungary. I might not be able to go nowhere next year because I don't think they're going to have the problem solved until well into 2021. It's a big problem.
Right.
I'm going to have to take my leave. Thank you for letting me join you guys, and I'll let you guys finish. This has been beautiful and very enjoyable. Thank you.
We'll see you, Miss Kim. Okay. Grazie, spasiba, as they would say in Russian.
So,
actually, Nick, it's not so risky as you might think, because in Moscow, they've built recently the first ever hospital only for COVID patients. No other patients are. So if you will get the COVID, you would know where to go in Moscow.
Right.
Now, you have other sickness, you might have some troubles to find the right hospital for yourself. And in fact, you probably won't even find one. But if you have COVID in Moscow, it's no problem.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I was actually thinking about going to Moscow, not St. Petersburg, because I've already been to St. Petersburg. But I got to fill out all these visa applications just to go. I mean, they don't. You just can't buy a plane ticket and off you go to Moscow. You got to go through all this paperwork at their embassy, and then you get to go to Moscow. Now, a more exciting trip would go to Armenia and Azerbaijan because I believe there's a lot of exciting stuff happening there. Yes. But I don't like to be an early mortality statistic and event something flares up again. However, I think Baku would be safe, because it's beachfront property. It looks really nice. I don't think that would be a problem. And that's going to be on Economics Monday. We're going to do a special on the Armenian Azerbaijan for people that join us on the Economics Monday show, giving a tout for our show.
Yeah, Nick, it's about that time that we talk about the rest of the shows that are going on.
Oh, yeah. Let's happen to Chess Stars. Last time you talked about The Queen's Gambit, which is a great show on Netflix. I finally saw it. And by the way, that motivated my wife to want to go to Moscow, believe it or not. She goes, hey, that's a beautiful city. Why didn't we go there? Because we went to St. Petersburg, which is also a beautiful city. So we got to go to Moscow now. So what do you have for Chess Stars, Sasha, coming up?
Well, believe it or not, we are going to do the deconstruction of Queen's Gambit.
Right, okay. Right.
Yeah, because Ken couldn't attend the last show. So
we're
going to have Ken Regan, and he watched the show with his wife, and he wants to participate in the discussions. And frankly, we didn't complete even half of what
he's a professor at SUNY and State University of New York in Buffalo or somewhere, right?
And also, he is International Master of Chess, and he was
International Master of Chess.
He was
he would have been Bill's professor, except Bill went to law school rather than computer science. So, okay. So he's going to be on Saturday on Chess Stars. Okay, good. So we'll be able to see The Queen's Gambit, which is a hit on Netflix. Too bad we don't own the rights to that. Bill, we need to raise a lot more capital to be able to do that. We have to do that sometime.
But we could probably get some talent and play act it, in a low budget version.
It would have to be an extremely low budget version. Netflix does spend $12 billion a year on acquisitions. I mean, they have some money to throw around. And Netflix stock went down because of COVID-19, looking like they have a solution to it because they believe they'll lose viewership when the COVID-19 goes down. So
it's already gained ground in the last couple of days.
Oh, did it go back up again?
Okay. It gained ground in the last couple of days, same as Zoom Video.
Really?
And, other stocks. Yeah.
And you can learn all this on Investing with Sasha Wednesday at 1:00.
Yes.
Another plug for your show, Sasha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And, today, coming up next, I believe we have Podcasters Thursdays. Is that right, Nick?
If it's Thursday, we do have Podcasters Thursday coming up. Okay. And I don't know if Gamers Den is afterwards today, is it? Also?
I believe so.
Gamers Den to afterwards, right? So we're kind of at the 2-minute warning. So other than that, I'm trying to think if there's anything else coming up. We did have the 3-day summit. It was very well attended out of Las Vegas.
No, Nick, you're missing the highlight. We have the gentleman who wrote the book.
Oh yeah, the book, The Millionaire Next Door. He's going to be on not this week because this week's Azerbaijan, but the following week. The famous Professor Danko, who wrote the book along with Professor Stanley. The Millionaire Next Door will be our guest on the IBM TV network. So yes, we do have a very, he's a New York Times bestseller. I don't know if he's a Pulitzer Prize winner like David K. Johnson, but he's definitely a New York Times bestseller. Like David will know who he is, I'm pretty sure.
Well, David will just have to accept that, at least somebody's closing in on his glory. But
that's what I'm saying. I think David would recommend. David may even have his book. I don't know, but it was a great book. It's called The Millionaire Next Door. Now he has a new book that's coming out. So Richer Than a Millionaire.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I think that's the name of the book, and I have the answer to that. It's called A Billionaire, which we've also had on IBM TV. So I'll bring in some people that are richer than a millionaire. They're called billionaires, but that'll be later on. What's at the hour bell? Should we say adieu to our guest?
Yep. Let's. Yes.
We'll get the airplane. We'll fly away, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Okay.